So in this video I'm going to cover what Mr. MB3 put out today, which gives us a fourth and fifth visual reference to prove that the Earth's axis has tilted. He is showing us the early sunrise as early as 2:45 a.m. Multiple people sending him these videos. And the shadow line of the Earth, the shadow line of the sun moving across the Earth at an angle. And then we're going to reference this video I made over a year ago titled Earth's Axis at 60 degrees, creating a 120-degree rotation in the sun, moon, and stars. As you can see here, Mr. MB3 showed these sunspots that line up on the sun that rotate around the sun between 7 a.m. and 4 p.m. and I give a great visual presentation showing how this works with my little lid here. We'll come back to that. I show you using this lid and the angle of the lid and a vertical pillar, which is that bottle, how on the left side on one horizon it's tilted to the right 45 degrees, and then you move it around to the other horizon and you can see it tilted to the left 45 degrees. This is what creates the appearance of a 90-degree rotation, a greater than 90-degree rotation, in the sun, moon, and stars. The three kings of Orion's belt will rise vertically and set horizontally. The moon will rise with a vertical light line and set with a horizontal light line, or vice versa. And Mr. MB3 showed us in two different videos that the sunspots create the same appearance of a 90-degree clockwise rotation around the sun in less than 12 hours, which means we're at further than 45 degrees, 60 degrees, creating a 120-degree rotation in 12 hours. Now let's go look at what Mr. MB3 showed us today, which gives us a fourth and fifth. So the first three is the sun, those sunspots doing the rotation, the moon doing the same 90-degree rotation throughout every single night, and the three kings of Orion's belt. Now you can use any of the stars to see this 90-degree rotation, but the three kings of Orion's belt line up to make it easily perceivable, and you can only see those in around November for a month or two throughout the entire night sky. Now let's go check out Mr. MB3.
Wayfair helps all of us create a home we love.
Mr.
Wayfair vibe at our place.
Drop some knowledge.
We all got our
What's up, guys? Hope everybody's doing well and having a great day. In this video, we're going to take a look at more examples of the very early morning sun, and we're going to look at what could possibly be causing this. What if humans have pumped so much water out of the ground that it's changed the tilt of the Earth? Articles going around last year about this time in the middle of June implying that indeed was underway. And what if we're seeing evidence of this today? And a look at some satellite imagery that shows the tilt of the Earth very, very low. We're going to come back and take a look at that footage here in just a moment. Got some cool photos to share with you guys. Dab Brad out of Fort White, Florida. Check out this.
Okay, that's where I'm going to call bullshit. The Earth's axis is tilting, but Mr. MB3 does this thing where he shows you what there is to be seen and then gives a bunch of wiggle room for the people who don't want to be able to look at it for what it is. Likewise, in the video where he shows the sun and those sunspots rotating clockwise around the surface of the sun and says, well, that just proves the Earth rotates. No, sunspots move across the equator from left to right over the course of 2 weeks. It takes 2 weeks for sunspots to move from one side to the other of the sun, and they move in a straight line across the equator or from left to right. When you see them rotating clockwise around the sun, that is due to the Earth's axis being tilted and the perception that it creates, which is why I give that demonstration with the lid and the vertical pillar, showing that it creates the perception of a rotation, a clockwise rotation, based on the tilt of the axis. And I made that video over a year ago, and Mr. MB3 is now showing us that indeed, the Earth's axis has tilted. The idea that it's because we pump water out of the ground, well, where does that water go besides back into the ground? That's weasel words for wiggle room to give people who don't want to deal with it a way out.
One more day. That is so cool. Paul Johnson, Grant's and other people saw that black halo in the sky just a couple of days ago. I want to share with you guys some more photos and video footage of the early morning twilight. Rennie out of Spruce Grove, Alberta, looked up and saw this at 3:25 a.m. this morning. Are you serious? Look at that sky. But I'm going to show you something here in a minute that may explain what's going on. I mean, as we all know, in the summertime in the northern hemisphere, the sun comes up earlier. We get that. That's not anything new. It just seems like it's coming up extra early this year. That's all. I noticed it again this morning myself from right out here in Arizona. Going from Alberta over to the United Kingdom, these photos were sent in by Neil. This first photo was taken at 2:46 a.m. Are you kidding me? 2:46 a.m. And he also noticed that cylinder-looking object up in the sky, too, as he took the photo from Manchester, United Kingdom. He actually took these photos on the 16th. These would have been yesterday morning. And the next photo he took at 3:32 a.m., about 45 minutes later. And you can see the sky was getting even brighter. Keep in mind, this is 3:30 in the morning, and it's daylight. 3:30 in the morning. And the next photo he sent in, 3:50 a.m., 6/16/2024, Manchester, United Kingdom. Straight up daylight outside, and it's not even 4 o'clock in the morning. And going from the United Kingdom to right over here in Arizona, I took these photos this morning myself, photos and video footage of the eastern sky at 4:16 a.m. In fact, I've got the metadata to share with you guys right here, 4:16 a.m., June 17th. I took that photo this morning looking down the street. That's east. You can see mountains over there. There's no city lights over there at all. That's all rugged mountainous terrain over there and desert. And as you can see, the twilight was bright as it could be at 4:16 a.m. Either nautical, astro twilight, maybe civil twilight. All I know is it was getting daylight. Here's a photo I took. It was starting to get daylight at 4:16 a.m. right out here in Arizona. Very, very early. It just seemed early to me. And then about 3 hours later, same part of the sky over here in the southeastern sky, I walked out of the garage and saw this in the southeastern sky. So by the time I grabbed my phone and started recording the sky, this feature right here had stopped. It was falling. There was something falling, leaving this trail right here. And I started recording it as fast as I possibly could because I didn't know what this thing was going to do. Apparently, this, whatever it is, it was some sort of a smoke trail by the time I saw it, but there was something moving over there in the southeastern sky. Obviously, it wasn't an airplane or a helicopter because this right feature was falling when I first saw it. And there was not only one, but there were two in the east-southeastern sky. Both of these things, whatever they were about the same size, and they were below the sun, as you're going to see here in just a second. This was a video I took of the anomaly over there in the sky. I was waiting on it to possibly do something else because it just looked out of place. And then I took a picture of the eastern sky as I noticed there was not only one, but there were two. Notice the one that I videoed over there on the right, and there was another one over here on the left that apparently had entered the sky before I saw this one. So two anomalies in the east-southeastern sky from right out here in southeast Phoenix. Saw that this morning at 7:45 a.m. So back to the twilight. We've been seeing twilight as early as 2:46 a.m. in some parts of Canada, the United Kingdom. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, article over here at space.com and many other places, and these articles were going around June of 2023. It goes on to say humans are pumping out so much groundwater that it's changing the Earth's tilt. Earth's tilt has changed by, check this out, 31.5 inches between 1993 and 2010. That's 17 years because of the amount of groundwater humans have taken from the planet's interior. In that period, humans have removed 2,150 gigatons from the Earth's natural reservoirs in the planet's crust. And this was a measurement that was taken between 93 and 2010. We're now in 2024, and what if we're now starting to see signs of this tilt in the early morning twilight? Brian shared this GOES satellite loop with me, and you can see how steep the angle is of the sunlight. Look at that. Maybe that's what's going on. Maybe the low angle is allowing the light to appear first up here in Montana and Idaho before it does in North Carolina. It just seems kind of odd because my friend Nelson sent in a sunrise from the other day, and he wasn't seeing twilight until about 4:45. When people up in Montana and parts of North Dakota were noticing twilight at around 3:45. So maybe the tilt is much steeper at the present time than it normally is. I know that out here in Arizona, the sun seems to be coming up earlier, at least with regard to the twilight. The twilight is definitely coming up earlier. So I came over here to the GOES 16 and was looking at the angle myself, and you can see it does look very steep, as it always does in the summertime. The sun angle changes back and forth. In the wintertime in the northern hemisphere, the sun angle will be going this way. It'll be going from left to right. And you can see now it's going from right to left. It just seems excessively steep, that's all. Here's another view, a full disk view of the sun angle. And if you watch this entire feed, you'll notice the top of the earth never gets dark, stays light the entire day, right up there. Check that out. So it seems like to me that the Earth is tilted a little more than usual, and that's what's possibly causing these twilight anomalies that we're seeing in various places across the Northern Hemisphere. Thanks for the photos and videos, guys. Keep them coming. If you guys have any photos you'd like to share, you can send.
What Mr. MB3 is showing you here is that the Earth is greater than a 45-degree angle because it's showing more than 90 degrees worth of rotation in the sun. The same 90-degree rotation I've shown in the moon and the three kings of Orion's belt. Let me run the numbers and the math past you here before I give you a demonstration and an explanation about what you're seeing. He's about to show you that the sun moves from the 7 o'clock position to the 11 o'clock position between 6 a.m. and 4 p.m. That's 10 hours. If the Earth's axis was tilted at a 45-degree angle, that would create the perception of a 90-degree rotation in the sky throughout the course of 12 hours. What we're seeing is a greater than 90-degree rotation in less than 12 hours. 3 numbers on the clock equals 90 degrees. From the 9 p.m., from the 9 o'clock position to the 12 o'clock position is 90 degrees. We're seeing an extra number, which is another 30%, another 30 degrees, because 90 divided by 3 is 30. So when it goes from the 7 o'clock position to the 11 o'clock position, that's 8, 9, 10, 11. 4 numbers on the clock. That would be 90 degrees plus an extra 30. 120 degrees. That means the axis of the Earth has tilted the 45 plus another 15 to add and account for that other 30 degrees of rotation. That means our Earth's axis is now at a greater than 60 degrees because that's within 10 hours. A 45-degree tilt of the axis creates the perception of a 90-degree rotation in the sky over the course of 12 hours. We're seeing a 120-degree rotation in the sky over the course of 10 hours, which means the Earth's axis is tilted beyond 60 degrees. He has shown us this twice now. Today, he included this in his video that he just put out. About 10 days ago, he showed it on a different video. And I've already made a demonstration and an explanation of why I think this is and how I think this works. And this explains what I've already shown, that the moon rises with a vertical light line and sets with a horizontal light line, appearing to turn 90 degrees throughout the course of the night, and the three kings of Orion's belt rise in a vertical line and set in a horizontal line, appearing to turn over 90 degrees throughout the course of the night. And here he is showing you the same phenomenon using sunspots. Let's watch what Mr. MB3 has to say here and show you.
To continue, as the Earth-facing side of the sun is still loaded with sunspots. Here's some video footage from Shelton, Connecticut, sent in by Scott. This video is from yesterday at 4 p.m., and I wanted to show you guys how these sunspots change locations as the Earth rotates throughout the course of a day. This video is from yesterday at 4 p.m., and notice this row of sunspots up here at the 11 o'clock position of the sun, right up there. This was, again, yesterday at 4 p.m. The next video, 10 hours later, from this morning, same location, Shelton, Connecticut, at 5:47 a.m. And notice where those same sunspots are in this video footage, down here at the 7 o'clock position. Right there they are. That's that same row of sunspots in a different location. 6 a.m. this morning, opposed to yesterday when we saw the sunspots up near the top of the sun. And here they are side by side, and you can clearly see the obvious difference. These up here in the northern hemisphere, when at 6 a.m. they're down in the southern hemisphere. So it just goes to show you that the Earth is indeed rotating on a 24-hour axis, and the sunspots appear to change locations, even though they really don't. Hopping over to
So all that shows you is that the Earth rotates on a 24-hour period. Yeah, and on an axis that is tilted beyond 45 degrees. He is showing you what there is to see while telling you there's nothing to see here. To pacify and sedate and calm people who are not willing to be dislodged from their comfort zone, he's telling you, this is all it proves is the Earth spins. All it proves is everything we've already known, and there's nothing to see here, and don't worry your pretty little head about it. But for everyone else, the 2% of the audience that's capable of seeing this, willing to comprehend it, and doesn't block it out because it's too uncomfortable and inconvenient for you to conceive what it is he's conveying to you, for that small fragment of the population, he is showing you something here. To everyone else, I'm just showing you that there's nothing to see here. Yeah, it's just, it doesn't prove or tell us anything. It's totally normal. It doesn't show anything that's unexpected. It's just shows us it's business as usual, as it's always been, as we expected it to be. There's nothing to see here. Move along. But for the very small portion of the audience who's willing to see what he's showing you here, he's showing you that the axis of the Earth has tilted beyond 45 degrees. Watch the rest of this video for further explanation and for his previous demonstration of this same phenomenon. And if there's nothing to see here and it's just natural and normal and nothing to see, why is he showing it? He's showing it for those of us that are willing to be able to see it, and pacifying other people with his words, telling them that there's nothing to see here. Mr. MB3 made a video showing that these sunspots that are in a line rotated over 90 degrees in 9 hours, between 7 a.m. and 4 p.m. This is the same phenomenon that I've shown with the moon, how it will rise with a horizontal light line and set with a vertical light line, and or vice versa. And with the three kings of Orion's belt, how they will rise on one horizon vertical and set on the other horizon horizontal. And I think I may have figured out why. The Earth axis has tilted to the point where the Earth's ecliptic plane is at about 45 degrees, and I'll make a demonstration at the end of this video. But I want you to listen to Mr. MB3. He is speaking out both sides of his mouth. First, he says that the sunspots moving across the sun are a result of the rotation of the Earth, which is false. And he knows that. The sunspots typically travel across the sun, and it takes them 1 week to go from the outer limb to the center, because it takes 27 or 28 days for the sun to make one full rotation. That's 4 weeks. So it takes 1 week to get from the outer edge where you can first see the sunspots. My pen's messing up. To the center. And then it takes another week for them to travel from the center to the outer edge. Which means that the distance you see them having traveled 90 degrees that far is actually due to the movement of the Earth. The standard movement of the sunspots that we see is directly across the equator. My pen isn't working very well. The standard movement of sunspots, we'll see them on this outer edge. I don't know why it's not working. We'll see them on this outer edge first. And then the next day they'll be here. And then the next day the sunspot will be here. And then the next day the sunspot will be here. And approximately 1 week from the outer edge to the center. 2 weeks from another week from the center to this other edge, because the sun takes 27 days. Let's just call it 28 days for easy math. 28 days for a full rotation. That means 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. This is the standard movement of the sunspots that we have seen forever. And that is due to the rotation of the sun, not the movement of the Earth. When they move this way, across the ecliptic plane, that's due to the rotation of the sun, and it takes 1 week for them to move this distance. When they move that far in 9 hours, that's due to the rotation of the Earth. And Mr. MB3 speaks out both sides of his mouth. He's showing you a phenomenon for people that think for themselves and can look at this and think for themselves. They will recognize what it is they are seeing. While simultaneously, he gives an explanation to make it sound like there's nothing to see here and this is just totally normal and it always happens this way for the other 98% of his audience. Soft-minded people who take a hardline stance on things they don't understand are not equipped to look at this and compensate and comprehend the meaning or contemplate it. So he gives them a way through what he says to normalize it, minimize it, and forget about it. So listen to what he says. He speaks both of the movement across, how they move across from left to right, and then right at the very end, he says something about the clockwise rotation. Those are two different movements. Straight across, that's due to the sun's rotation. This clockwise movement, that's due to the Earth's movement.
From volcanoes.
I've received 3 different videos from 3 different people, Scott, Carlos, and Tara, of the sun yesterday. This first video was submitted by Scott yesterday morning at 7 a.m. Notice the sunspots are going horizontal across the equator of the sun. This is right after sunrise yesterday, May 22nd. Video footage submitted by Scott. He also took a video at 3:45 in the afternoon, and the sunspots appear in a totally different place. Check this out. I received video footage once again from 3 different people, and you're going to see how these sunspots definitely change orientation from our view down here on planet Earth. Check that out. This is the second video Scott took yesterday evening at 3:45 p.m. And notice where the sunspots are now. They're going vertical instead of horizontal. See that? This is at 7 a.m. This is at 3:45 p.m., approaching sunset from the same location, Shelton, Connecticut, but that's due to the orientation of the Earth. The stars in the nighttime sky appear to move from left to right across the nighttime sky, and as we just saw, the sunspots appear to move across the surface of the sun, also from left to right. Video footage here submitted by Carlos from Portugal. You can see the sunspots are vertical, and this video footage was at sunset around 7:45 p.m. The sunspots were up towards the top of the sun. And this next video was submitted by Tara Goodfellow at 4:35 p.m. yesterday, and this was approaching sunset, and you can see the the sunspots are vertical in this video opposed to horizontal at 7 o'clock in the morning. And she also noticed a sunspot that appeared and disappeared very quickly yesterday afternoon. That sunspot right there only appeared in her photo she took of the sun right there, and it wasn't there very long. This one here has been there for about a week. That one appeared and disappeared in probably less than 6 hours. That one right there. And that was a decent sized sunspot right there that appeared in her photo and only hers, nobody else's, and it wasn't there that long. And I compared it to the satellite view of the Earth facing side of the sun, and you can see only in her photo was that sunspot there. Like I said, it appeared and disappeared very, very quickly. Nowhere to be found in that photo there. Again, here's a side by side from Connecticut. 7 a.m. on the left, horizontal sunspots. Over here on the right, vertical sunspots at 3:45 p.m. And once again, that's from the rotation of the Earth. It's kind of like the stars in the nighttime sky. They appear to move across the sky from left to right, east to west. The sunspots on the Earth-facing side of the sun appear to do the same thing. Most of the time, sunspots on the Earth-facing side of the sun are exactly that. They're just one spot. We don't always get a long row of sunspots like that show us how they do appear to change location throughout the course of the day. That just confirms that the Earth does rotate counterclockwise, and that proves it as the sunspots appear to move clockwise across the surface of the sun. Really cool video footage, guys. Greatly appreciate.
Here's a quick demonstration of why I think the sun, moon, and stars appear to do a 90-degree clockwise rotation, as Mr. MB3 just showed with the sun, because we're able to see that line of sunspots. Imagine this is the spherical Earth. You don't need a flat Earth to understand this concept. Spherical Earth, this is the equator. But instead of just spinning around, the Earth is now tilted at 45 degrees. So it's spinning like this. Imagine yourself on a giant merry-go-round. As the Earth spins, here's the constellation of Orion out here. We spin, and the guy standing on this edge goes past the constellation of Orion, but on a tilted axis to a point of 45 degrees. It used to be 27 degrees, or 23.3 degrees, 66.6 degrees. Ooh, shudder. So, at that angle, when it's just barely coming over the left-hand horizon, it's tilted 45 degrees. This is a vertical pillar right here. 45 degrees to the right. You have to tip it to the left to get it even with the plane. As we spin, as you see the stars go throughout the night or the sun go throughout the day, by the time it reaches the other horizon, it's 45 degrees to the left. You have to tilt it to the right to get it even with the plane. This is what happens with the objects in the sky as the Earth spins, is that they appear to shift 90 degrees. It's 45 degrees to the left, you have to shift it 45 degrees to the right to get it even with the plane again. It's 45 degrees to the right, you have to shift it 45 degrees to the left to get it even with the plane again. So, when it does the full circle over the Earth, over the course of the night, it appears to do a 90-degree clockwise turn. So I've gone over this in many previous videos. The moon at half moon often rises with a vertical light line and then goes over the sky, and on the other side it has a horizontal light line appearing to have shifted 90 degrees. Or it will rise with a horizontal light line and go over to the other horizon and shift 90 degrees to have a vertical light line. The three kings of Orion's belt do the same thing, but you can only see them throughout the entirety of the night sky during a couple of months in late fall, early winter. Oh, I'm propped up on it. Anyways, so now the sun, moon, and stars show what appears to be a 90-degree clockwise rotation as it goes over. Going over, that has to do with the rotation of the Earth. The clockwise rotation, that has to do with the tilt of the axis. Our axis has always been tilted supposedly at 23.3 degrees. Now it appears to be at about a 45, which is what accounts for the appearance of a 90-degree turn. First 45 as you're coming up to center from the horizon, the second 45 as you're going away from the center down to the other horizon. Everyone remembers half moon as a right half or a left half. No one remembers top half or bottom half. Now, it is top half and bottom half more often, equally as often as it is right or left. The other option, it'll either rise vertical and set horizontal, or it'll rise horizontal, come over and set vertical light line. The other option is it'll rise at a 45, come over, and set at the opposite 45. Always it does a 90-degree clockwise rotation throughout the sky. It didn't used to do that. Ask anyone to draw a half moon. They will draw right half or left half, and maybe a little bit tilted. No one draws half moon like that, or like that. And if they do, it's because they've seen it within the last few years, internalized it, and integrated it into their worldview, normalized it. But anyone that's over 30 knows half moon is right half or left half. These days, that's where I first noticed this phenomenon, was in the moon. As a truck driver, I would be able to watch it all night, and I would drive at night typically. And that's when I realized, bottom half, what's that doing? Top half, what's that doing? So I watched it closely and realized it turns 90 degrees throughout the course of one night. Just like those sunspots appear horizontal, and by the end of the day, a 9-hour period, they had appeared to rotate 90 degrees. So the three kings of Orion's belt, the stars, the sunspots, the sun, and the moon are all illustrating this 90-degree clockwise rotation as they go overhead. I think the best plausible explanation for that is that the Earth's axis is tilted to about 45 degrees, and thus the ecliptic plane, as it rises up, we're like on a merry-go-round that's tilted. So it comes up around this way, and then goes back down around that way. And that accounts for the 90-degree appearance of 90-degree clockwise rotation. In the sun, moon, and stars, the Earth is wobbling to and fro like a drunkard. And just to finish this off, if this idea that I'm portraying here is correct, then that means the Earth is actually beyond a 45-degree angle, closer to 50 or 60 or beyond. Because over here, the sunspots don't even line up at 9 o'clock. It's more like 8:30. And over here, they're at about 1:30 or 2 o'clock. From 9 o'clock till 12 o'clock is a 90-degree rotation. From 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock is 90-degree rotation. But these have actually turned further than 90 degrees in only 9 hours. A 45-degree angle of the axis would provide the appearance of a 90-degree turn in the sky throughout the entire 12 hours, from one horizon to the other. The fact that we get more than 90 degrees of rotation in only 8 hours means that the axis of the Earth would have to be tilted even further, because a 45-degree allows for the appearance of a 90-degree rotation. 45 degrees for the first half from the horizon up to the center, and another 45 degrees from the center of the sky, the apex or the zenith, over to the other horizon. This is also why we remember the moon being perfectly straight, right half or left half, or up to a 45-degree slant, because the Earth has always been tilted at 23 degrees, and you combine those two 23 degrees, and it allows for a 46-degree appearance of rotation. Now we see over 90 degrees in less than 12 hours, but 8 hours. If you extend that 8 hours and the distance that it has rotated, that's more like 110 degrees that it's rotated. And if you extend that for another 30%, because 8 hours is 66% of 12 hours. If you split it up into 4, 4, and 4. But this isn't 8 hours, this is 9 hours. So you have 3 hours remaining. 25% more. 3, 6, 9, 12. If this rotated 120 degrees in 9 hours, it would have another 25% of that by the end of the 12-hour period. In other words, if they had taken the 7 a.m. video at 6 a.m. and the 4 p.m. video at 6 p.m., 12 hours, 6 a.m. till 6 p.m., that would add another 3 hours, which would add another 25% to the total rotation that you see here already, which is about 110 or 120 degrees. That means our axis would have to be tipped way beyond 45, closer to 60 or 70. Okay, so the Muse message that goes with this video is AWOL Nation, Windows, both because of the lyrics and the choreography of the dancing. Her arms right there, she's showing you the pole reversal. When they show these dancers in motion, they're going in reverse, reversing the directional flow of their dance maneuvers. You can see that by their hair and their clothes and the way that it moves. You can tell they are putting the video in reverse when you're looking at the dancers in this video. But before I get to any of the lyrics of Windows by AWOL Nation, I want to say that we're coming up on the summer solstice, which is when the Earth's axis is naturally tilted to its highest degree. Also again in the winter solstice, tilted in the opposite direction. And people presume that if we have a pole reversal, it's going to happen at that point right around the solstice, be it the winter or the summer solstice, because that's when the Earth's axis is tilted at its furthest. But if the rotation that we can see with our own eyes of the moon in the sky and the three kings of Orion's belt, let's just use the moon, because we can see that the sun and the stars are doing the same 90-degree rotation throughout the night, but let's just use the moon because it's always visible every month. The sun, we only saw that 2 different times in the videos Mr. MB3 gave us. The stars, you can only see those in November throughout the entirety of the night to track that 90-degree rotation. But the moon, you can see every 2 weeks there's a half moon that you can watch do that 90-degree rotation throughout the night. And if that 90-degree rotation that you can see it doing throughout the night had to do with the wobble of the natural wobble of the Earth between summer and winter, at some point between those two, not equinoxes, solstices, the axis is straight up and down, and you wouldn't be able to see the moon appear to turn 90 degrees over the night. You would only see that apparent rotation in the winter, when it's tilted that direction, or near the summer solstice, when it's tilted that direction. If my hypothesis is correct, and that's what we're seeing when we see the moon turn, and I know a lot of you have noticed the moon. The half moon being on the bottom illuminated, or the top half being illuminated. A lot of people have even noticed the rotation throughout the sky. My point is, we expect that the pole reversal would happen at the solstice, because at that point the Earth's axis starts tipping back the other direction. And as it does, once it hits the midpoint, you wouldn't be able to see the moon doing the apparent 90-degree rotation, but it does, it has for a few years now. So maybe there's something pulling on the Earth's axis, and the Earth's axis isn't just going to naturally tilt back the other direction come solstice. That's just a thought. Why am I able to see that moon rotate 90 degrees throughout the night every single month of the year? If it was due to the natural tilt of the Earth's axis, then you would see it near each one of those solstices, and halfway in between those solstices near the equinox, when the axis of the Earth is vertical and not tilted either direction, you would not be able to see the apparent rotation in the moon. But we do, always, every month, even around both equinoxes. So maybe it's like a magnetar, a pulsar, another star pulling on our Earth, a second sun of the binary system that's pulling our axis. So, here in a week, when we pass the solstice, we're not necessarily out of the woods, because it's not necessarily just the natural tilt of the Earth. Maybe there's something else pulling on the tilt of the Earth. The other thing is, when we think of pole shift, a lot of people think, well, that's just magnetic pole shift, where north and south switch directions, but the geographical North Pole and South Pole stay where they are. The actual physical Earth doesn't turn over, just the magnetic poles of North and South. Just like we watch the North Pole moving and the South Pole moving, but geographically, those areas of the Earth aren't moving. But now, what we are seeing is geographically. It is not just the magnetic pole that's moving, it's the actual Earth that is tilting. Not just the poles moving. So when we think of pole shift, we normally tend to think, well, that's just the magnetic poles, north and south changes spots, but the north geographic landmass doesn't actually tilt down and go clear to the South Pole, and then vice versa. What we're seeing appears that it is going to be a physical pole shift, geographical pole shift, where the landmass is actually tilting along with the axis of the Earth, creating that shadow line that's at such an angle, and the rotation of the sun, moon, and stars, not just magnetic pole reversal. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. And one last thing before I get to the lyrics of this Muse message of the song Windows by AWOL Nation. Mr. MB3 put out a request in 2 different videos for financial help. He hasn't done that in the entire 5 or 6 years that I've been watching him. This gives each and every one of you an opportunity to be part of something big, to do something extraordinary. But most of us have to just do the ordinary and go to work 9 to 5 and pay the bills. But we all want to do something extraordinary, and you can. You can be part of something extraordinary by supporting his work. I would muchly appreciate it. I gave a donation myself. I gave him a bunch of 3s in a donation through PayPal, and where it asks, why? What is this money for? I said, for services rendered to humanity as a living bridge while we walk between worlds. And that's what he is. Mr. MB3 is a living bridge, helping people bridge the gap between their worldview that they once knew and what they're about to know, and helping us walk between worlds. If it weren't for, there is no other MB3. He is the clearinghouse for all these UFO videos, and he spent years developing his referral basis where people know where to send your videos for distribution for the world to see, for the community of truthers that are into that stuff. Those of us that are actually walking that bridge between worlds, not the normies that are sitting on their ass in the world that no longer exists, where plasma fire doesn't exist and trees don't burn from the inside out, and UFOs are a thing of myth and legend. He's walking us between worlds. He is a living bridge. And if you appreciate what he does, know that there will never be another MB3. If he went away right now, there is no one that could take his place. They would have to spend 10 years developing the name recognition and the referral basis so people know, oh, well, this is the new clearinghouse where everyone sends their UFO videos. He is the Earth Watchman. That is his moniker on his YouTube channel. He is a watchman on the wall, and he has done an extraordinary job. If you would like to help him, I'll leave a link in the description of the videos where he requested any assistance from those who find his contribution to your life worthy enough to reciprocate. So let's check out this music video. She's showing you the pole reversal with her hands right there. The flipping of the earth upside down. I hope you were able to see the flow of their hair going the wrong direction, looking completely abnormal from any dance moves you've ever seen, which indicates they have reversed the directional flow of the video itself. Now let's check out some of the lyrics as it relates to this pole reversal, EMCO, electromagnetic plasma changeover event, the plasma apocalypse, if you will, the reversal of the directional flow of the earth. Off in my head, lost off in my head. Off in my head, lost off in my head. Lost are my arms, lost are my legs. Lost is my heart, but my new soul stays. Do we really know which way the wind blows? Oh, you mean like the reversal of the direction of the which way the hair flows and the earth spins? Or are you just talking about which way the wind blows? Are we really safer in the shadows? Off in the red dance, dance with the dead. Repeat of some of those lyrics. I can't believe that's the chorus. I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe this is happening. But I'm aware, and I don't care. Is the sun's early arrival a sign of something ominous, his title says? Earth has tilted. Had to get rid of that little banner ad there. Earth has tilted, his thumbnail says. Not with a question mark. Not as a question, but as a statement. And I'm aware, and I don't care. I know some of you are looking forward to this happening. Are we really safer in the shadows? So this is the greatest news of all time. For those of you who have been engaged in this transition, that are walking between worlds, that kind of like, are we there yet? Are we there yet? This is the greatest news of all time. Look how close we are. The evidence is everywhere. There's 5 visual references we have now of the Earth's axis tilting. The rotation of the sun, of the moon, of the stars, the angle of the shadow line on the Earth, and the early arrival of sunrise at 2:45 a.m. Lift your eyes to heaven, your redemption draws nigh.